So as companies go remote, we have Vidya to talk about what and how to, right? The stage is yours.
Thanks, Gautam. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the session on what the fish is OKRs. So I'll probably start with a quick introduction to the story of FitBots. We started in 2018 with the passion of taking OKRs to many other organizations. But one of the biggest realizations as we were setting up FitBots is that not many people understand OKRs. So the first thing that we did was to get certified as OKR coaches. So I'm a certified OKR coach, coached over about 200 plus teams. And taking a lot of that know-how is where we built FitBots so that it's really close to reality. A little more about FitBots. We're also the affiliate partners of OKRs Training US. And we bring with us the global best in context to how should OKRs actually be implemented in organizations. And along with that is, of course, the FitBots OKR software to track and manage. So that's a little background. Just to add to what Gautam just mentioned, I think the biggest realization as we've gone through the journey of building FitBots is that there are no ironclad rules in OKRs. So all that I'm going to share is global best practices so that you could apply it in your context. And this being SaaS Insider's largest conference, I've also got a section for how do you really craft OKRs if you're part of a SaaS company. So this is where it all starts. This is one of my favorite quotes from the jungle, where it goes such as, if you want to go fast, you go alone. But if you want to go far, you go as a team. And this to us is the essence of OKRs. So OKRs is first of all a shift from me to we. So if you're somebody who's been used to age-old performance practices and goal setting where you're actually evaluated at the end of the year, here comes OKRs, which is actually breaking that as well as silos and helping you focus on the most important metrics which matter to your organization. And we'll talk a little bit about that. But I'll start with a little story, and this is a folklore which I'm familiar with. It's about a pigeon king who was in the forest with his friends. But there came along a hunter and threw a net over them, and they all got caught in it. So the hunter was extremely pleased with himself because he felt that he had got a good catch for the day. But then this is what happened. All the pigeons started flapping their wings together, and we know the rest of the story, where they all rode in the same direction and flew away, leaving the hunter behind. So really the essence of OKRs is, as I mentioned, a shift from me to we, where if you look at your organization as a team, how do you all row in the same direction so that you achieve outcomes? So let's go on to the basics of OKRs so that you get a little bit to demystify what the fish is OKRs. Right? So OKRs is actually an acronym. It stands for objectives and key results, and tasks are the priorities. So if you really look at it, the shift that organizations would be going through is from managing inputs or task lists to managing outcomes, which are your key results. And I've got a few examples of this so that you can get the difference between tasks and outcomes. So if you want to break it down further, how do you define OKRs? So let's say somebody comes up to you and says that, hey, what are OKRs and can you help me define that? We've got a very simple definition in our context. So one is OKRs are a critical thinking framework. So I'm not sure what critical thinking means to you, but to us, it's about moving the organization into a data-driven way of making decisions. It's an ongoing discipline because in OKRs, you do not set it and forget it. So remember the time you actually took a New Year resolution to say that you're going to lose weight. You had it written somewhere down, probably stuck it on your fridge, and then you forgot about it, right? And so that's not a good way of running OKRs. So it requires a lot of discipline to run something that we call week-on-week check-ins. The third important thing about OKRs is that it needs to ensure that everybody's rowing in the same direction. So one of the secret sauce in OKRs is cross-functional alignment, which means it's not only about vertically aligning your OKRs, but also cross-functionally aligning. And in SaaS companies, it's about, is product talking to engineering? Are they talking to HR? Are they talking to marketing and sales and so on and so forth? And of course, it's about focus. The last and most important is everything about OKRs is quantitative. So no matter which function or department you represent, everything that you do should be moving towards outcome metrics rather than task lists. Two books which I would highly recommend in OKRs are Measure What Matters by John Doerr and Objectives and Key Results. So if you want to become OKR practitioners within your organization, these are the must reads because they've been crafted by the thought leaders who represent OKRs. Now, what's making it so popular and why are teams adopting it? And really, in our coaching experience, it bubbles down to these 6. One is about focus and planning. So we work with a number of product and engineering teams where there's a bunch of ad hoc requests which comes to them. What OKRs does is help them focus and prioritize on the critical outcome metrics so that the sprint planning becomes a lot more organized. What this also does is it helps you bubble quite soon than later, which are the KRs at risk. So remember the earlier slide where I mentioned it's an ongoing discipline. The important element about OKRs is if you're doing your week-on-week check-ins, which is what is one of the essence of OKRs, you're able to spot your KRs at risk a lot sooner and get support from the rest of the organization. And of course, the rest of it comes together where it's about accountability because you place ownership in OKRs, you cross-functionally align. So remember about product talking to engineering, talking to sales, talking to marketing. So KRs need to be cross-functionally aligned and they must add business value. So we need to demystify OKRs a little more. What does it stand for? So objective stands for what exactly do we want to accomplish? So think about it like a thought experiment. So imagine yourself at the end of the quarter and you ask yourself, what did we accomplish over the quarter? That's the thought experiment which objective sets you to think about. Objective statements in OKRs, interestingly, are words and no numbers, which means they are emotive, they're memorable, they borrow from your vision, and if read by your team, they should give complete clarity. The essence of good objective statements are they must have business value as well. So they should be simple, concise, inspire, and must have business value irrespective of which team you represent. Let's go on to KRs, and this is a very, very quick primer on OKRs, so I'm going to rush through some of this. KRs are how do you measure success? Now, while there's a lot of elements which are written about key results, if you really look at the essence of key results, everything should be measurable and they must help you move from X to Y, which means in a quarter, if you start the quarter with X million dollars in revenues and you'd like to move to Y million dollars in revenues, OKRs always helps you measure progress on a metric over 90 days. Interestingly, OKRs has something called the 3x5 framework. So if you're looking at practicing OKRs in your organization, remember to not pick more than 3 objectives and not more than 5 KRs. Many organizations that we work with pick at most 2 OKRs and run deep within it. What that means is focus on a few outcome metrics so that you get the most of the framework. And of course, the last part of the OKR acronym is tasks. Tasks are actually a list of experiments. So they're a bunch of to-dos and there is service to KRs. So let's say somebody comes up to you and if you're part of the marketing team and they say, hey, I've written 5 blogs. That's an awesome task, but really the outcome that you're looking for are conversion metrics. So let's take an example. And this example is of, let's say YouTube was setting OKRs. What would they have done? Right? So let's say YouTube is setting an OKR. The objective that they could have taken is become a market leader in free video streaming. So this I'm talking about many, many years ago. Really, the business value here is to increase viewership. So think about the objective statement as something which is so simple that any newcomer into your organization can see, I know exactly what's going on. So it's very simple, concise, brings out the business value. Now comes the key results. So if you study these key results, interestingly, they move from X to Y. What that means is you're picking up a value metric. So here, you're not talking about revenues here, but you're talking about how do I increase viewership from X to Y minutes daily? But by doing so, I need to reduce video loading time from X to Y minutes so that my users don't flake out. So well-defined key results are an awesome blend of leading and lag indicators. So this is a lead indicator and viewership. As you sign up more viewers, it's probably a lag indicator, so something else that you're measuring. Now, if these are the key results that the company has taken, what do you think would be the task? So everything else that you do, so for instance, speak to 10 users, or let's say you've been organizing a conference and you've been coordinating meetings, all that comes into your task list. But really, the outcome that you're trying to measure is how many signups, how many viewers, or what's that customer value add metric of reducing video loading time. So you see, there's a difference between tasks and key results, and now you're managing outcome metrics rather than checking off tasks. So it's a very powerful shift, especially when you run it for your organization. I'm going to very quickly go over to some examples of SaaS companies and how do you set OKRs here. So let's take a company, for instance, and in any SaaS company, you predominantly would find these are the departments. You'll have product, you'll have engineering, you'll have customer success, sales and marketing, HR and finance. So let's say we take product and customer success, and we're trying to set OKRs for these two teams, ensuring that they're also bi-directionally aligned. We're also assuming that at the company level, in this particular quarter, churn is the metric that we'd like to focus upon. So let's say at the company level, they've taken a churn metric to reduce it from 15 to 10%. Customer success says, okay, I'm going to reduce customer churn from 15 to 10%. So they're going to own this specific KR. They're going to write up another KR which says launch the customer NPS survey, maybe something around reduce the callback time as we speak to our customers from, let's say, 10 minutes to 3 minutes. So they're really working towards customer experience to reduce customer churn. And if you look at product and engineering, in order to support customer churn will bi-directionally align their KRs to say that what can we do to increase week one engagement from 5 minutes to 10 minutes so that our users don't flake out? Or can we reduce page loading time from 15 to 5 seconds so that our users have an amazing experience? Or let's say something around tickets, it's not blog games, but it could be any tickets that reduce from 100 to 10. So if you need to know more about SaaS OKRs, there's a really cool template which is there on the Fitbots resource page, and you could access this. I'll also have this over to the organizers of SaaS Insiders to share it with you. So think about OKRs as two lenses. One is set them at the company level, but OKRs are best set when teams come together and set OKRs as teams and departments and bi-directionally align them to support each other. So that's a well-defined and connected and aligned KR set. Now, many a time you may be asked as to how do I get an OKR rollout right? So these are what we find are key ingredients to get any OKR rollout correct. So the first is sponsorship. Before you go in for an OKR rollout in your organization, ask yourself, who is the sponsor? The sponsor is most likely your CEO or founder, who actually ensures that there is a reason why you're introducing OKRs to your organization. The second ingredient is about getting an OKR coach. Now, you could get an external coach, or you could have somebody internally coach your teams, but it's important to baseline the language of OKRs in your organization so that it's understood by all teams alike. So remember, in OKRs, inconsistency is a deal killer, and you want to reduce as much as that. The third and very important role, and this is something which would be interesting for you, many of you who are doing it for the first time, is that OKRs which are implemented must have a champion. There are two kinds of champions we have seen. The internal champion who basically oversees OKRs, whether it's going well across the organization. If you're a smaller startup, we find that the founder and the sponsor and the internal champion could be the same person. We do find that a lot. But let's say you're a larger organization, the internal champion would ensure that OKRs are well distributed and going across the organization, percolating across the organization, and week-on-week check-ins are happening. There's also another role of a team champion. So within every team, you would want to have a team champion to ensure that everybody's focusing on outcome metrics. Ambassadors are business leaders. So let's say department heads who are non-champions or non-sponsors to keep the culture of OKRs and drive it within teams. This is a very, very important role, especially as you scale OKRs. And of course, in OKR software, if you're more than about 20 teams, invest in an OKR software. Otherwise, you can use a spreadsheet. The importance of an OKR software is to get insights early so that you're able to control your risks a lot sooner. Now, going on to what are the common mistakes that we find in OKRs. So when you're actually thinking about getting into the trenches and writing OKRs and rolling them out in your organization. So remember these 4 or 5 mistakes which could happen. The first is if you don't have alignment. So there are 2 kinds of alignment we talk about. One is you don't have a sponsor, then it's best not to introduce OKRs. Or if 2 teams are not onto aligning with each other, then OKRs will not work. OKRs is a team play. It's best written when teams come together and you write your high quality OKRs and assign owners. So remember, no alignment, no buying. The second is doing it without building the muscles. So I remember when I went in for my strength and conditioning class the first day, I actually pulled a few weights and then I had a sore muscle for many days. That's something that will happen if you introduce OKRs without building the muscle. And the way to build muscle is by doing the following. Have a sponsor, have somebody who understands OKRs, coach teams, have a champion, ensure that week on week check-ins happen. Otherwise, your OKRs will pretty much be sitting on a spreadsheet or on a tool and not being looked at. Now, that's more dangerous than not setting OKRs. The third is, interestingly, targeting the right KRs. So when you're actually looking at which key results should you pick, so remember back in this example where YouTube actually wanted to set up OKRs, they did not select a metric which was around, let's say, revenues. They very specifically selected a customer value add metric. So when you have a good combination of customer value add metrics as well as lead indicators, then you're selecting the right KR. The more lag indicators you have, the more it'll move towards KPIs. Just too much. Now, this is a big trap of OKR writing. If a few minutes back, I did share that 3x5 is an awesome framework for you to practice in OKRs. Now, the reason why we say that is when you're super sharp and focused, you would be able to organize your task list better. So when you have too many OKRs, it's a real deal killer. So the few you have, less is always more in OKRs, as you say. And finally, not focusing on execution. 99% of teams whom we have coached come week on week for their check-in meetings. The reason why week on week check-ins is important, or you could do bi-monthly check-ins in case you're part of product and engineering teams, is because it really gets you all together to focus on outcome metrics rather than the task list. So task lists would be many, but here you're really focusing on, hey, has week 1 engagement moved from 5 minutes to 10 minutes? I may have done a bunch of tasks, but if this outcome metric is not moving, then it's, as a team, we have not met this particular key result. So with that, that's a very quick and short overview of OKRs. I hope that has given you some pointers to take away. But you know what? We're actually getting so good at OKRs that we can set it with anybody. So if Count Dracula comes up to us and asks us to set OKRs, we can pretty much do that as well. So thanks a lot, and I'll just pause here to take any questions.
All right. So there's one question. So the Software Lakshmi, she wants to know about your startup FitBots.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So FitBots is, we're an all-in-one OKR company. What that means is we have both the OKR SaaS platform, where you can manage your OKRs, but one of the biggest realizations that we had is that it's not only about the platform, but it's also about setting high quality OKRs. So you can book an OKR coach from our network and have them work with your team so that they're able to adopt OKRs. So OKRs which are badly written will have probably downstream impacts. So you want to write that up well so that you're able to get the most of the framework.
All right, so we have a few more minutes. If anyone has any questions, you can post it in the chat here. All right, so Vidya, you can tell us about your, about your journey. What made you start?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, absolutely. So one of the important realizations when we started FitBots was there are many organizations which are out there which are growing at a frenetic pace. And these were, Google, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Google pioneered OKRs. what was interesting is that the way they manage team performance is very different. So organizations which manage performance management practices today put so much of importance on bell curves and ratings and reviews. They give you heartburn, and it probably is of less value to everybody. But when you're focusing on OKRs, you're actually doing two things. One is every team in your organization is calling out business value. The second and very important thing is when you're actually getting teams to write their key results, they're all focusing on outcome metrics instead of task lists. So task lists are basically something that we all manage, but it's the outcome metrics which are more difficult to track. So in the same example that I'd given in the engineering context, if your week one engagement is not moving, if your product consumption metrics are not improving, no matter what feature you build, it's not influence the outcomes and it's not going to impact the business of reducing churn. So the mindset of all teams moving to outcomes is probably the most important that we see.
All right.
And this is across the globe. So whether we work with teams in let's say in India or Singapore, in the US or Australia, it does not matter. But every team that we work with, there is always this mindset of flipping back to tasks and measuring tasks because it's easier to measure tasks rather than really moving into outcome metrics.